We are going to dive in today to learn about women's health issues from personal firsthand experiences and invite you into conversation. That's what we're all about. My name is Levine Breissner. I'm the network director of plant-powered Metro New York. What you just heard as you entered the room was the sound of Joan Henry at Tsalagi Singer honoring women, saying, "Women of all the nations, you are the strength, you are the force, you are the healing of the nations." So that's what we're hoping to explore with all of you. I invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat box and let us know a little bit about why you're here today and where you're tuning in from. I think it goes without saying that women's health is community health. When we live in pain and in sadness and in struggle, so do our families and communities. And when we live with vibrance and joy, so too do our communities. If you've ever been diagnosed with a women's health condition, or if you've ever struggled to figure out what is going on with your body, and it just seems like there are not good answers, you know how frustrating it can be. And often we carry some guilt. What did I do wrong to experience my body gone wrong? So it's really important that we emphasize that while our personal choices are important, it's also our society, our food system, and our traditional approaches to health and medicine that have really stripped away many of our choices from us and unintentionally hide the fact that there are other safe ways to deal with our health. What you'll hear today are stories of transformation that illustrate what's possible with dietary change. I'm really glad to be joined today by my colleagues who you'll be meeting in a moment. In particular, I want to thank Sally Lipsky from Plant-Based Pittsburgh for joining us. An all-volunteer nonprofit organization, Plant-Based Pittsburgh, provides education and support about how to adopt and sustain plant-centered eating habits. And the JIVINITI Coalition is a program of the Versa Foundation, an all-women's coalition collaborating with plant-forward policy change and the visibility of BIPOC women vegan leaders. Welcoming Nibby Joswell as the leader of the coalition, and very grateful for Plant-Powered Metro New York to be a member of that coalition. Standing together. Our mission as an organization is to empower people to find better health and overcome chronic disease through whole food plant-based nutrition. And that's really what we're going to learn so much about today. So to get us going, we're actually going to start with some physical grounding with Danielle Medina, one of our organizers. The day is, our hour is arranged so that we can both learn together and also practice self-care together in the space. So Danielle, I'm going to hand it over to you. Danielle is the Brooklyn organizer and creator of Fit and Play Mama, bridging the gap between adult and children's fitness and nutrition. Danielle.
Thank you so much, Liana. And thank you everyone for coming today. So I want you to take this moment to be aware of your body, your thoughts, and your breath. So let's start by placing our hands on our heart. You can close your eyes for a moment and feel your heart beating and allow your heart to slow down. And know that we are connected through all of our hearts with each pump that it takes and each breath that we take. And then you can bring your arms down to your legs. You want to sit up nice and tall here. You can open up your eyes if you like, or you can keep them closed. And we're going to send our energy into our feet. And we're going to lift our toes up off the floor, and you can wiggle them around and letting your toes wake up and become more aware. And then you're going to lift your leg up, one leg up, and you're going to lower it down. And then you're going to switch, lift the other leg up, breathe in and breathe out, bring that leg down. Nice. And then we're going to take our hands to our hips, lift your chest up, and you're going to look up to the sky. And then exhale, you're going to curve your spine, bring your chin into your chest. And again, let's repeat that. Inhale, lift your chest up, look up, and then exhale, curve your spine, bring your chin into your chest. And then you're going to sit up nice and tall again. And then let's tilt the head to one side, just releasing all the tension that's in the neck and in the shoulders, and relax. And let's switch to the other side. And just allow your head to rest here. And then lift the head back up to center. Take both arms out to your side and stretch them up nice and high. Deep inhale here. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart center. And then again, we're going to open the arms up. Inhale. And exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, bringing your hands back to your heart center. Very nice. And then let's rub the hands together, creating some heat and energy right here. Now close your eyes again, and then you're going to place your hands right on top of your eyes. And it's a gentle hold here. And we're going to create some darkness so that the eyes can relax. Try to relax all of the muscles surrounding the eyes. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. One more breath in and breathe out. And then take your hands down onto your lap. Sit up nice and tall. Think of a string coming out through the crown of your head so your spine is lengthening up, creating space in between each vertebrae. And I just want to share a poem here by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it's called Conscious Breathing. Breathing in and out is very important and enjoyable. Our breathing is the link between our body and our mind. Sometimes our mind is thinking one thing and our body is doing another. And the mind and the body are not unified. By concentrating on our breathing in and out, we bring our body and mind back together and become whole again. When we breathe consciously, we recover ourselves completely and encounter life in the present moment, which is right now. And thank you so much for joining us. And now I pass strength and respect to Sally Lipsky to share her healing story of ovarian cancer.
Thank you, Danielle. That was beautiful. And from one yoga teacher to another, I loved it. Loved it. So, hello, everyone. I got a very rude awakening 13 years ago. I was diagnosed with late-stage ovarian cancer. And this was, I tell women, 1 month after a clean bill of health from my gynecologist. And that just shows you the sneakiness of ovarian cancer. The shock, I thought I was a healthy middle-aged woman. I was 55, and I thought I was, doing the right thing, exercising, eating lean, animal products, low fat, lots of low fat dairy because I needed my calcium, going to my regular examinations. But here I was with late stage cancer. I immediately had surgery. I went through the standard chemotherapy, was in remission 6 months later. However, always waiting for the cancer to return. And the main reason is that ovarian, if you're familiar with ovarian cancer, tends to be resistant to chemotherapy. And it usually comes back within the type I had comes back within 24 months. So I was always like alert. When is the next? And really before each exam and blood work and a scan. And then I happened to read an article about, actually from Anti-Cancer, the New Way of Life, an interview with a Pittsburgh-based doctor, and opened my eyes to the relationship between food and disease. And at that time, it sort of, it was a wow movement. And I started exploring and researching and looking more and more into it and realizing the power of food to really heal, not just heal, but actually protect from and even reverse disease. And since that time, I have put my passion, my energy into not only my own healing, but to spread the word, because I had to, as I like to tell others, I had to dig for this information and others shouldn't have to dig for the same information. So that is why I'm here today. And I can say that 13 years later, I've kept cancer at bay. I have still no evidence of disease. And I think that lifestyle change that includes whole food, plant-based eating, as well as yoga and lots of gratitude has kept me in a healthy state of mind. And I want to just end with that word of gratitude, because gratitude certainly is the few transformational practices that unites people beyond beliefs and words, beyond nation, race, and tribe. It is really this simple. When you have a heart full of gratitude, your behavior is positive and kind. So I just want to feel much gratitude for being here today with you, for being able to share this collective wisdom. And with that note, I am going to turn over this to the next presenter to share her healing story, Wendy Sacks. Thank you.
Many thanks, Sally. What a moving story, and really amazing courage and transformation that's possible. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm on the board of Planned Parenthood Metro New York. I'm also a documentary filmmaker, so it's really a pleasure to be here. My story includes healing from thyroid disease. I was diagnosed in my, mid to late 40s, about 15 years ago, with serious Hashimoto's. And let's see, my symptoms included, I was a bit of a workaholic and didn't notice everything that was going on, except I was gaining weight. I was hot and cold. I was waking up hyper and exhausted at the same time. I was on that treadmill that many women in particular, but men are also on, which is just kind of work, work, work. And then you get home and it's more work. And sleeping, but not sleeping. I had just about every symptom in the book. I have a lot of hair. My hair was very long, so I wasn't worried that it was falling out, which are all the symptoms of thyroid disease. And I went to the doctor for just a regular checkup, and he sent me within an hour to a endocrinologist. And the endocrinologist, of course, I went through blood tests, and he basically gave me 3 months before he was going to put me on medication that I would have to be on for the rest of my life. And within that 3 months, I found Dr. Fuhrman, and I read his book, Eat to Live, which at the time, he'd written it in 2003, and this was about 2006. And mind you, I was a workaholic. That meant I never took off work. I read his book. I took off work I heard him speak on a Monday. I called in sick on Tuesday, read his book all day Tuesday. I called in sick on Wednesday, cleaned out my entire kitchen, and decided in my 40s it was time to learn to cook. And called in sick on Thursday because I had to chop so many vegetables and barely knew how to hold a knife. And went back to work on Friday, and then continued to cook and read the book and figure out the recipes on my own without any support, Saturday, Sunday. And within 6 weeks, I'd lost 25 pounds and something like this. Wow. And I went back to the endocrinologist about a month later to do my blood tests, and there was no thyroid disease. All my thyroid numbers were normal, and it was beyond shocking. And at the time, this was not so well known as it is now, or it's gotten better. And the original doctor who diagnosed me ended up calling Dr. Fuhrman and saying, "What have you done?" And he now is very much, he's written a book about gut health since then. And the original endocrinologist blew me off and said, well, you know, it's a spontaneous recovery. And so when you go out there with whatever is going on, you can get both sides from the medical community. One doctor was super interested, the other doctor wasn't. So that's, and my thyroid numbers have been fine for the last 15 years, and I continue well into my 60s now, experiencing great health. So on that note, I do also have a poem I really wanted to share with you because it's a guiding philosophy, at least these couple of days. And I just also want to say how grateful I am for the education and for my healing on account of the education. And really am thrilled to be offering everyone here through Planned Parenthood Metro New York and all the different organizations that opportunity for education as well. So very grateful. All right, here we go. This is a poem called Evening Prayer. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's called Love Doesn't Need a Story by Alfred Lamott. And here we go. As you awaken, just before the mind of yesterday falls like a net of stones, be weightless. Be presence without a story. How your soul looks in the mirror when it sees itself. What gets you out of bed, trembling like a wild purple iris in the breath of dawn? It doesn't matter at all what you will do for a living today. The priceless jewel is just living. It doesn't matter at all how much money you will make today. Your body is more precious than sunlight. Your sternum is beaten from finer gold. Whether you feed the multitudes today or only wash dishes makes no difference at all. What matters is to plunge down the stem of this unfolding meditation flower, to follow the thunderbolt in your backbone all the way home to silence, to drop the terrible fairy tale of yesterday's rage. The mirage of sorrow vanishes in clarity, your heart, the whole sky. Don't you know that you saved the planet just by being awake? Love doesn't need a story. And on that note, I now pass strength and respect to Nibby Joswell to share her healing story. Nibby is a dear friend, and she's a former corporate executive. And if you give me 1 minute, I'll give you the formal introduction. Former corporate executive, research-based, not-for-profit entrepreneur, plant-based investor, and really strong women's coalition leader with her foundation, JIVINITI Foundation. Nibby, to you.
Thank you so much, Wendy, and good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever you're joining from, or indeed good evening. I see there are some people from the Middle East and from Asia here. This is a truly global movement that, Liana and everybody else here at Planned Parenthood Metro New York are creating, and not just in New York. So hats off to all of you guys. Thank you so much for having me here. My story doesn't start with me. It actually starts with my parents and my grandparents. My story, my healing story, every healing story necessarily starts with a sickness story, right? That there is something that you want to heal from. And mine started when I was 11, and my father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I was in another room, and I heard my mom and my dad and his doctor, who was paying a house call because my dad had ended up falling somewhere and he wouldn't heal, as type 2 diabetics tend not to heal from bleeding, etc. And essentially, my mom was very worried that, oh my God, this is a life sentence. So I learned early on that chronic illness was in my genes. This was an infection, an accident that was waiting to happen to me at any point. And I had to be careful. And I had to stop eating fruits. I had to stop eating vegetables. I had to stop eating grains. And I had to focus on the protein, and I had to focus on lean meat and so on. When I was 18, within a period of 6 months, I lost all 4 of my grandparents to chronic illness. Two of them to cancer, one to stroke, and the second and the fourth one to complications from type 2 diabetes. When I was 35, I was formally diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, hypothyroidism, obesity. My visceral organ fat was really, really high. I was also told that as a person of color, my BMI scale was different than that internationally used. And especially for South Asians, onset of chronic illness tends to be at a lower age, and once when diagnosed, the symptoms tend to, proceed and progress really, really rapidly and can intensify. I was based in Singapore at the time, but I was traveling to Hong Kong when I actually fell unconscious after delivering a workshop. And that's when I had to be checked into a hospital. And in one instant, from self-perceivedly a healthy person, I went with, one of those little bands, a blue colored band around my wrist, and I was labeled a patient. I struggled for 2 years after that. I Googled, I tried to, look up different types of doctors, naturopathic modalities, and so on. Eventually, I thought it must be my corporate job. I was traveling around the world, 50% of my, month for the last 15 years around that time. And it must be stress. So I quit. I took a sabbatical. I decided to do yoga. I decided to do ketogenic diet because, my endocrinologist was a big proponent of that. It brought me to a very dark place. I stumbled upon the China study. I read that book in 2 days flat. I was so taken up by the fact that this information was out there and not many of us knew that. And mind you, I was working for a health sciences company, a life sciences company at the time, dealing with cardiovascular health. So it was even more ironical. Once I went whole foods, plant-based, oil-free, I was able to reverse every one of these chronic illnesses in a matter of 6 months. My thyroid numbers are perfectly normal. My ovaries are perfectly symptom-free. Due to COVID-19, I lost my father. He had been whole foods, plant-based, oil-free for the last 3 years. And those were the happiest years of my father's life because he was able to get off insulin. He was able to have all the amazing fruits and vegetables again. And I feel, regret, obviously, and it's a deep tragedy because of COVID-19. But the fact that my dad was happy in his last years means the world for me. With that said, what I'm going to do is, I also have a poem, just like my previous speakers did. I'm grateful for my healing, and I offer this poem to you by Caroline Miller. It's called March. Hope starts in small things and becomes a river in spring, the bright green pop of a dandelion mandala, pushing up through the asphalt. The cold March wind which says, hold on, brighter days are coming. So maybe we live in dark times. This morning, the birds and the crocus flowers turned their faces to the sun and sang regardless. Winter is tired. She longs to lie down in the arms of spring, melting into the sweet white blossoms, the ripening buds of new beginnings. There is sap rising up in the bones of this body, this land. This is where transformation comes, where shoots grow from old roots. So the wind blows, maybe it brings change. Hold on. I now pass strength and respect to Levine Breissner, my dear friend, to share her healing story of endometriosis and to share with you more about Liana. She is a health empowerment advocate, co-founder of Plant Powered Metro New York, and a mother of 3 gorgeous, beautiful children. Juliana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nibby. Thank you all for your incredible stories and your openness and your willingness to share. My story began really when I was a preteen. At the age of 11, I got my period. It's been inching younger and younger, of course, as the years go on. And by the time I was 15, my periods were so painful and heavy that I would sometimes leave school to cope with the pain at home. And sometime during high school, I was given the pill. They said the pill will help you regulate your hormones. It didn't fix the problem, but it took the edge off. But I definitely still had heavy and painful periods. And as I got older, I experienced diarrhea along with my periods and clotting as well. That was sort of a feature. Too much information perhaps, but so important for us to share to break through the taboos. So in all of this, as I was growing up and trying to figure out who I was, one of the reasons I decided not to be a classroom teacher, which was something on my mind, was because I knew I really couldn't stand up in front of students a few days per month. And in this way, like my condition was actually influencing my career choices. Later on in my 20s, after my first child was born, I didn't go back on the pill after pregnancy, probably because I just didn't know that I was supposed to at the time. So you could say that I was unregulated. When my daughter was a little bit over a year old, I was having intense insomnia and recurring vaginal infections, and that led me to ultimately find an ovarian cyst. So due to the size of the cyst, my gynecologist she suggested that it be removed through laparoscopy. And in the process of doing the procedure, they actually gave me a formal diagnosis of endometriosis. The cyst itself was an endometrioma, which was brought about by my condition. And the doctor also noted that I had endometrial implants on my intestines, which was, they believe, leading to my GI symptoms that I experienced during my period. So just a little quickie on what endometriosis is. It involves endometrial cells, the cells that are supposed to line the uterus to prepare for pregnancy, that we slough off each month. They somehow pop up outside of the uterus and also slough off with each period, creating cramping and scarring at the sites where they're located. And so for many women, there are other complications like infertility, or people are counseled to have hysterectomies. And I didn't have that serious of a condition, but had it been left unchecked, it's really difficult to know what it would have been like 10 years later. So when I went about changing my diet, I actually did it in an attempt to get rid of my acne. I cut out gluten and dairy first to see if that would help. And I did that for 2 weeks. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, I did a much deeper dietary change where I actually almost cut out most processed and animal foods, even before I knew what a whole food plant-based diet was. While the acne did not budge, my first period started at the end of those first 2 weeks off of gluten and dairy, which was overlapping with the first few days of my full dietary overhaul. I had a totally different period than ever before. It was 5 days long. Normally it was 6, 7, or 8. I had little to no pain. I had a much lighter flow. I had no diarrhea, and I felt so free. I felt liberated. I felt light. I was ecstatic, and it happened again the next time. And it still happens that way. And I'm just so amazed. I mean, I can't say that I've reversed endometriosis because I think that would require another procedure to confirm, but I definitely don't experience my body the same way. And I used to hate being female. I used to loathe the pain and the disruption. And I envied all my friends who seemed so fine. And I just didn't understand why I was so unlucky. So I'm not really sure that gluten played any role in my periods, but I have had times where I've eaten food with baker's yeast in it and I had cramping afterwards. I don't really understand the mechanism at play, but I think that yeast and dairy were the 2 biggest triggers for my condition, but certainly the entire dietary paradigm that I entered reset my body. And so after my hormones changed, quick ending here, I saw another really incredible shift. In all 3 of my pregnancies, I breastfed my children for 2 to 3 years each. With my first 2 pregnancies, while I was exclusively breastfeeding, my fertility returned after 4 and 5 months respectively, very early in the postpartum period. And with my 3rd pregnancy, which happened after most of my dietary change, my fertility didn't return until 22 months afterwards, which is such a difference. So the biggest thing I really took away from this is, wow, food and hormones are totally interconnected. I had never thought about this before, but the more I learned, the more in awe I became of how intricate our natural chemistry is and how my body is bound up in this greater plan that's tied to the natural world. It gave me such a deep appreciation of life itself. So grateful for my healing, I offer this poem by Melissa Steffi entitled Into the Chrysalis. Into the chrysalis once again, the quiet calm has come to take me. It whispers softly in my ear, drawing me away from chattering smatterings. Never fear, though I disappear, I am right here, hidden cleverly in the open air, with the winds billowing through me as I am like gauze, like a ghost, like a specter, awaiting the awakening. 'Tis the season when those pieces fall together and the magic bursts forth from us and our wings unfold and fill with dreams and flights, fantastic voyages. So thank you all. Each of our stories, of course, are presented out of our personal lived experiences. And now I want to turn it over to our colleague, Dr. Jessica Krantz, who's going to put our stories into a medical context, because there is more to this. These are not flukes. These are not anomalies. There's something here. Dr. Jessica Krantz is a board-certified dermatologist, a lifestyle medicine physician, and a certified mindset coach. So Dr. Krantz, will you help us unpack what we have learned today?
Thank you, Leanna, and thank you everybody for sharing your, so powerful, all of your individual stories. And I know that everybody here probably is thinking about their own experience while they're listening, because even I was thinking about my own health experiences and how little we have known until more recently about really what's going on in our bodies. And obviously it's always an ongoing journey. I feel like we're still at the beginning of understanding the true impact of nutrition and our food choices and our lifestyle choices on our health. But it's a really exciting time, because now we know it's really the whole story and how much we care about it. It's an honor to be part of the journey at this time. I was gathering, everybody's stories, and I made a list of all of the different health conditions that have been already mentioned in our meeting today, and some that you guys will also talk about in some of our breakout rooms. And I wanted to just say that it's kind of crazy how literally almost everything that we could have affect our health relates to something we can control or improve with our diet. This includes pre-diabetes, diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, hypothyroidism, autoimmune thyroid disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, tachycardia and heart arrhythmias, menstrual irregularities and endometriosis, migraine headaches, emotional grief and trauma and depression, obesity and excess weight that is, a struggle to lose even when we want to. Sometimes we may not want to, but if we want to, it can still be difficult. And, ovarian cancer, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and other and inflammatory bowel disease. This sounds like a textbook of all of medicine, and we can affect it with our nutritional choices. Hippocrates, famously, the guy who is the source of the Hippocratic oath that we physicians take, he is famous in our plant-based circles for saying, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." So even he knew all those years ago that that we are what we eat. We've all heard that growing up, and I thought it was like, a slogan from a TV commercial, but it is literally true. What we put in our bodies is either healthful substance that helps us thrive, or it is a substance that will make us sick. And there's just no doubt that it's one or the other. So one theme that struck me as I was reviewing all of the health conditions we were going to talk about today is that many of them relate to two conditions that are at a baseline that maybe triggers or create an environment that allows the development of many of these other health conditions. One of them, it can be obesity and carrying excess weight, because it has been theorized and shown that carrying excess weight creates an inflammatory condition in the body just by itself. And that extra inflammation can be a trigger for other problems and imbalances in our hormones and our immune system. So that alone is a topic that we just don't want to not mention, even though it's a little bit complicated to discuss. And, you know, we want to think healthfully at any weight. We want to think healthy at any weight, but we want to also take care of ourselves and believe in ourselves and love ourselves, so that our lifestyle choices help us naturally come closer to a weight that is healthy for us. That's one. And then the other one, just this common theme, and what was the biggest, most mind-blowing revelation that smacked me between the eyes when I started learning about the whole food plant-based diet on my journey to becoming a lifestyle medicine physician, was that the cause of pre-diabetes and diabetes and insulin resistance is not white flour, and it is not white sugar, and it is not all those carbs that we all grew up being told were the cause of diabetes. Diabetes, insulin resistance, and pre-diabetes are not caused by eating the processed carbs. Processed carbs create inflammation and triggers in their own right. But when I learned from all of the famous doctors who are all of my gurus that diabetes is actually caused by animal fats and animal substances going into our cells, our muscle cells and our liver cells, and clogging them up so they can't function. They can't process blood sugar and they can't process insulin. They don't respond to the insulin signal. That our bodies become broken by this animal fat and getting clogged up. So when we switch to a whole food plant-based diet that is low in fats, only healthy plant fats, and low to no oil, no processed oils, our cells actually start to work again. They become functional. And what happens is when we eat a healthy meal, our insulin rises to a proper level, a normal level, and helps to push the blood sugar that's in our blood into our cells so they can work. So we don't get these insulin spikes, and we don't get insulin-like growth factor spikes. And the reason I want to just mention those two hormones is that elevated insulin and elevated insulin-like growth factor turn out to be a major portion, if not the entire trigger, for almost all of the conditions that we've talked about today. And it's unbelievable. You go down the list: insulinemia and insulin-like growth factor trigger ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, breast cancer. It triggers polycystic ovarian syndrome, diabetes, thyroid disease, migraine headaches, irregular menstrual cycles, infertility, can be related to endometriosis, and even thyroid disease. I don't even know what I've left out. So obviously this is like it's meant to be like a headline mind grabber to shock us all into realizing how related all of these things are to what we put in our mouths and our nutrition and our food choices every single day and every single meal. There's so much more. There are textbooks and amazing books written out there with everything else, and gurus out there all over the place spreading the word. So I'm really excited about it. But I just wanted to say that having you all here today to hear this message and bring it back to your communities and your families is a great honor. And it's been an honor to be invited. And I would like to turn it back over to Leanna to continue our program.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Krant. And what we're going to do next is actually now give you a chance to talk to one another. And we're going to give you an opportunity to pick which topic you would like to dig into. Each of our speakers today, as well as we're joined by Plant Powered volunteers Enrica Saka and Lori Pitkowski, who will be facilitating breakout rooms where we can go deep, talk to one another, get some support from one another, and try to find ways forward. The breakout rooms will last about 20 minutes. We are going to go a little beyond 1 o'clock today, so I hope that's okay, and I hope you'll stick with us. The breakout rooms will be on the topics of female cancers, trauma-informed nutrition, thyroid health and healthy aging, healthy cycles and pregnancies, autoimmune conditions, listening to the gut, and you can explore general questions or other topics with Dr. Krantz in one of the rooms. So what we're going to do is open up these rooms. You'll go in, you'll chat with each other. We'll come back in 20 minutes and have a little closing at the end. You get to choose your room. So when you see the pop-up, you hover over the number next to the title and it'll show you the word join, and that's how you join the room. So here we go. Hello, ladies, welcome back. Thank you so much. I am deeply privileged to be in conversation with all of you, and I'm wondering if there's any aha ideas that came out of your discussion, strong takeaways, things you really are excited to share back to our full group. Don't be shy. Phyllis, go ahead.
Well, our group,
Oh,
hi, sorry, Juliana.
Go ahead, Natasha.
Our group, you know, with the trauma, it wasn't long enough because it was that good, but everybody shared. And I think that we really were looking even for, I think her name is how you pronounce it, Neva? Neva, to give us even more information about how to deal with the stresses, what food relates to those things. And because of lack of time, we didn't get as much as we liked, but it was excellent.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear. I know, and it's so interesting. Like we could talk for hours, right? About all of these topics, and especially the idea of overcoming, the idea that we can be back in control even when things are tough in our lives. I think that's just this is what we're here for. We want to make this conversation happen more. So if we can create more space for that later, definitely. And please do follow up with one another. Phyllis, did you want to share something with the group?
Yeah, something that I loved was the idea that even if you do eat plant-based really, really well, you're still, no one is bulletproof. Like you're still not immune to illness. Not to say that it won't be less but whatever, but that was a good point that I took out of the discussion.
Absolutely. And absolutely important to think about that in the context of cancer, because there's so many unknown factors and it grows within us for such a long time. So I think it's so important to recognize that humanity is an unpredictable thing, but we can try to control as much as we can. Yeah. Anyone else have something to share back? A key takeaway or an aha?
I just wanted to mention, we mentioned it in my room, but I just wanted to confirm that we're going to be sending, we've got some more questions about resources, and that, Leanna, we'll be making a list of all resources and that you'll send it to people.
That's right.
Correct.
On that list I'll just mention, the biggest question on our group was really where to start. And so people start from different areas, of course, but on that resource list you'll be sending, perhaps there's some easier places to start than others.
That's right. And for those who are really brand new to this conversation, every month Plant Powered Metro New York has something called, we do our intro level session called Get Started with Whole Food Plant-Based Nutrition. So I'm going to share a link to that in the chat box so you can be a part of that learning, because we do it with a dietitian alongside a chef, and we talk about both the lifestyle and the science of it. So this is the registration for that if you'd like to join us. Any maybe final comments or takeaway?
I learned that when we eat like fiber, that it binds to it binds to excess estrogen and helps remove it from the body, so it's not circulating in the body.
Was I accurate, Jessica? Dr. Krant? Yeah, okay. Great.
Yes, I actually, people had great questions in our breakout room too. And I realized all the things I meant to mention before that I didn't. And one of them was about fiber. So thank you, Malaya. And also we didn't get to talk as much about the connection between nutrition and mental health as I wanted to, but they're completely linked. And, look forward to more conversations with everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. So in the interest of time, I think we'll wrap up, but what we'd like to do at first, I want to share my thanks to my sisters here who have made today's program possible, sharing your stories and your guidance and your facilitation skills and your expertise. I'm so grateful. And thanks to Holly Hatfield Patel, who is holding the space with us as well. I wanted to ask Sally and Nibby both to share an announcement from each of your organizations that might be of interest to the group here.
Yes, I just want to real quickly, I'll put the website plantbasedpittsburgh.com, and that's for those who wanted to email me, you can go through there. But also we're having our next event is on Wednesday, March 24th. We're having a cooking demonstration from root vegetables to spring vegetables, and anybody can register. It's open to and the registration is through plantbasedpittsburgh.com.
Fantastic. And Nibby?
Yes, very quickly, what I wanted to share was that the JIVINITI Coalition, we're a women-led coalition. Majority of our women leaders are BIPOCs, that is women of color. And we've written an open letter to the Biden-Harris administration, as well as a petition to Vice President Kamala Harris to consider urgent pandemic-related nutrition guidelines for Americans, and to ensure that whole foods, plant-based, oil-free nutrition is actually included on an official basis. I will put in the link for the petition if any of you is interested in signing up and supporting us. And next week on Tuesday, March 23rd, you can see it on our Instagram, which is JIVINITI. We will have information on a panel discussion that's coming up with Jane Villas-Mitchell, Plant Pure Communities, and another organization, a plant-based organization out in the UK, where we're all getting together and advocating for public policy level change in population dietary guidelines, and in getting the government to do something about factory farms and animal agriculture. So more information on that, and please give our Instagram a follow. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nibby. And we're going to actually close with another moment of self-care with Sally. Sally's going to do a guided meditation, and I'm going to just plop some more links in the chat box for you about Plant Power Metro New York, but not take any more of your time. Sally, will you help us close today with mindfulness?
Absolutely. We'll do a short breathing meditation just to bring some closure here. So just close your eyes and let's just bring your attention inward to the breath, the power of the breath to bring your focus into the moment. Chest, and then evenly and slowly down as you exhale. Any stress, let it just drip out. Just notice how your breath feels, a sense of abundance on the inhale, a sense of quiet relief on the exhale. Inhaling calm, exhaling anything that does not serve you. Be mindful, be grateful the way the breath moves and nourishes the body. As we conclude our time together, let us recognize the importance of befriending who we are, ourself as an individual, with compassion and acceptance, with openness, gentleness, and certainly with an abundance of self-care. And that's what this today was about, is recognizing as women the importance of caring for ourselves. Because it is only through our caring for ourselves that we can be more open, more generous, more compassionate in the caring and accepting of others in our life. Recognizing the connectiveness among all of us today, appreciating the wisdom that we shared among ourselves. And we end with a very heartfelt sense of gratitude, of peace. So just slowly opening your eyes. And thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Stay in touch. We hope to be a part of your healing journey.